Hi, this is Katie Weeks, your independent, close to my heart maker. And today I'm joining with Miranda Weber over at Myscrappylife for a virtual crop. Okay, so welcome to the Sketchy Inspiration Challenge. This is a new challenge for the Myscrappylife Virtual Crop weekend. And this challenge is to use a sketch and provide and make a scrapbooking layout and a card. So I'm going to show you what I've done, and I'm going to assemble these with you. So first off, I'm going to show you what I'm going to be using. This was a recent promotion from Close to My Heart called Gnomes for Winter. And this is the sticker sheet. And there are a couple gnomes. Some people aren't gnomes people, but there's not a ton of gnomes. You could easily do this promotion without using gnomes. I'll show you the papers. This is one, and the opposite side is the only paper with gnomes on it. But aren't they cute? But you can do basically the same sort of thing with the opposite side. It's a little more blue if you'd prefer to go without gnomes, without the reindeer, without the snowman, and all of that. So there's two choices there. This next one, I can't get enough of this plaid. So this plaid is on one side, and the opposite side is this snowflake background that looks to me like a blizzard type page. But that plaid is awesome. And another one that I've used a lot is this stripe. And I'm going to be featuring that today. And on the other side has all of these words, and I just love the word jumble, word cloud type thing that they have going on, so that there's words going every which direction with that beautiful stripe on the back. So I'm going to be creating something not winter and more of a male type theme. I think I can use it for my nephew's scrapbook for his graduation. And I'm going to be featuring Make It From the Heart, Volume 6, Pattern 11. And you will notice they only have 2 pictures here. I might have some more spots. So I think I'm going to have some more spots on the right-hand side where I do some pictures, because I doubt that I would have too many layouts with just 2 pictures. And I want to show you, this is what I created for the card. So you can see this big feature element here would be this one right here. I think that might have been Scarlet, I think. And then this was a zip strip that I have some at the top and the bottom, kind of mimicking this page right here. That's actually a full panel, and I just used 2 little papers, and I will do the same thing when I do my scrapbook page. I'm not going to waste this whole thing as a panel. I'm just going to do 2 strips. And then I have the piece coming across here, and then the feature element, which for me is the truck. So this is the card that I made. So let's take a break and see how I made this card. So when I stamp an image on my mini Misti and I want to hold it in place, a lot of times I will cut a square or a rectangle, cut out my image, and then use that square or rectangle to hold it in place in my mini Misti. And so I lined it up, and now I'm putting that piece back in, and I'm going to stamp it with my intense black ink. Now when I do this, I can stamp it a couple times. It'll be in the exact same place. I don't have to worry about it shifting because it's not exactly square, because it's being held in place by the original die cut. I don't always use that negative space that I didn't stamp in, but for today's card I'm going to. And the fun thing about it is I'm going to put some foam tape underneath it so that it pops off my card some, and it looks like the truck is standing out from that card base. So I don't show you all of the things that I did, but I did want to point out a few things about the truck. I used my Colorista markers, colored pencils to color in this truck. And then when I finished color and shading with them, I went back in with my colorless blender to blend in those colors a little bit. I also used some glitter gems and colored them with my tri-blend marker and then used those as my tail lights. How fun is that? Okay, so then I'm going to show you how I might work on this page. And I've already prepped my 2 pages with the light side of mist, and I have put that down in my background right here. And I have glued it to my Versamat for both mats. And then I have this pattern paper with the nice stripes. I've got to decide if I want my stripes to go this way or this way. I think I keep changing my mind. I think I want them to go vertically because I have this element going horizontal across the page, and then this that'll go right here. And then on the diagram, they had one large piece of paper going all the way down, and I am going to be using the light side of Mocha, and I'm not gonna waste the whole sheet because I just don't have any good reason to waste that much. So I think it's about 1 inch that shows at the top and the bottom, and I actually cut this to 1 1/4 just to make sure I have plenty of coverage for it. So it was about 9 inches long, and I only needed 1 inch to show at the top and the bottom. I just made it a little extra longer, so I had no problems with everything meeting up. I did not want the tiniest little gap to show just because I couldn't measure, or I measured incorrectly on my cutter. So of course, as soon as I start, I always run out. So I am using our Mono Air adhesive. We have 2 adhesives. The other one is branded with the Close to My Heart logo. The other one is a little better for temporary stick at the beginning and permanent later. This one is just more permanent. So I also find that this one is a little bit more economical with the refills. So another reason that I like it, and it's a little bit longer. So I go through a lot of adhesive, as you can imagine, and I like it to last a long time. So I like the one that lasts a little bit longer. So I'm trying to make sure it's even on all the sides. It's a little deceiving with these stripes, like that green almost gets lost. So there's that. And then this one, I think it's supposed to go down about 3.5 inches from the top. Okay, so I'm an eyeballer. I don't know about you, but I can usually eyeball pretty good. I'll tell you what I love though is our T ruler. The new Close to My Heart T ruler is the bomb, and I can make it hook right here on the edge of this mat and stretch across more than 12 inches. It's so perfect. So there's that. And then this, so this was the light side of Sapphire, and this is the light side of Jade. I thought the lighter side matched these muted tones just a little bit better. There we go. So that's the base of this one. Let's go to the accompanying page. Again, I have my mat down, my base page, the light side of the mint. And I'm putting the light side of espresso down. Across the bottom and across the top. And again, I want my stripes to be vertical to match the other one. Vertical here, I'm going to do vertical on this one as well. I'm going to try to make sure I come about the same. This page has just a little bit different layout. Again, the light side of the sapphire we're going to put down. And this one comes off the, or just inside. And it kind of lines up with this espresso panel. So imagine an imaginary line all the way down. Light side, ooh, yeah, light side of Jade, and it overlaps. And again, it's that vertical line, top to bottom, that I'm working with, and it overlaps this just slightly. And then this one, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet because I don't have the pictures yet, but I will show you. I have a couple of these, so if I want to go something like this at some point, I can. I have lots of options. So these are just kind of some extra elements that I'm going to save to put on there. So coming back here, I think I'm going to do some decorating, but I don't want to use anything that looks winter necessarily. I do like these, and I noticed on the original copy, let me bring back in my Make It From the Heart. Do you see how there were some stripes here and here? I really kind of liked that. So I think I'm going to try to mimic that. So the first one, I'm gonna cut these just by hand. Sorry about my arm. Here, we'll do it from this way. I want it to be just a tad longer than it needs to be. We'll see if I can share it between the two pages without using both zip strips. Just being a little frugal here. Tuck that in, and then I'm going to grab the next piece. Tuck that one in. It's almost to the end, not quite. And then this one. Oh yeah, perfect. We have just a tiny little piece left. So we'll put that as a decorative element. And then I think, let's draw some free-handed lines across here. You know, I do better with my free hand if I pull down. They're not quite as bad. I'm just using a white gel pen. There you go. So there's page 1, here's page 2. So now I'm ready to start adding a title and some embellishments. So I pulled out some stitched rectangles. I thought those might work on here, but that just looked a little bit too plain to me. So I went and cut some of these stitched fancy brackets and thought layering that was better. And I was gonna have kind of a subtitle as well, and I was trying to decide, do I add an extra frame behind that one or not? And I think I decided to go without that. And so I've brought in the stamp set, Love You Most, and I like this family, and it says it's a noun, and then it has definitions down below. And so I think I'm going to use that. And then there's a few other things that I can use as sentiments that go with family to add to some of these pieces, and I'm deciding which one would have the best fit to go on my page. And I think it's the same size that I'm going to use for my title block, actually. So I'm going to bring in my mini Misti and do some stamping on here. So I'm going to add one of those white daisy small fancy stitch brackets. I'm going to season up that stamp, and then I'm going to add this word family that's spelled out phonetically so that you can see the right way. And I'm going to look at the colors and decide what colors to bring in. And I think I'm going to start with the sapphire ink for the word family. And I'm going to ink that up and stamp that off. And there's actually a little flaw on my stamp. I don't know if I scratched it or what I did, but I'm stamping that and getting a nice impression as best as I can. And I have the word family and how to pronounce it on this one. And then I'm going to re-stamp it. Sometimes just stamping it a couple times is the best that you could do. And it has it spelled out phonetically, and then it's a noun. And I'm bringing in a Le Pen that's a navy and just kind of filling that in a little bit. It helped, it just helped where there was a little bit of a flaw on my particular stamp. I think I must have done something to that one. I don't remember. And then I'm going to stamp the definitions down below. So it says 1, the ones who love you the most, and 2, the ones who drive you insane. Isn't that the way family goes? So I'm going to stamp that on the next stitched fancy bracket, also in sapphire ink. So if you're enjoying this video, I would like you to hit the subscribe button for my channel, and then you'll be given notifications if you ring that bell and turn it on all notifications. You'll know every time I upload a crafty video. I frequently add cards. Usually I have 3 for every stamp of the month set that we offer from Close to My Heart, and then I do some scrapbooking layouts every month as well. So this one I did in the sapphire ink, and then I'm going to add a couple more sentiments that are on here. So family, the next one is going to say is forever, and I'm using that jade ink, but I stamped it off once, and then on that sentiment block I'm going to bring that back in and use the second generation of the jade ink. So the definitions are in sapphire in full strength, first generation, and then this that says is forever is in the second generation of jade. And then I'm going to bring in one more sentiment, and this one said makes this house a home. So these 3 things all apply to family, and I'm going to use 2nd generation of my espresso ink for this one. So again, I will stamp it off on just that background paper that's in my mini Misti, bring back in my sentiment block that has the other things on there, and then stamp it 2nd generation in espresso. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Isn't that nice? And all of those apply to family. Okay, so I'm going to bring in some 3D foam tape, and I will just put down the dark side of the espresso for the frame, and then I will use the 3D foam tape, and I've got a whole bunch of just partially used rolls, so I'm just going to be using a couple of those rolls up on the back of this piece. And I've really tried to clean out my stash and use up all the bits and pieces, and that's what I'm down to now, is bits and pieces of a roll. And so I'm using that, popping it up on foam tape because that's my title, that's the biggest font, and then I'll have this, what I would consider the subtitle block, to be down below and not framed out like the other one. Then I need to add some more embellishments, and this is going to go in my nephew's scrapbook, like I said, is what I think I'm using it for. So I don't really want to add flowers, and it's my sister and then her husband and 2 boys, so she's totally outnumbered in that household. So I wanted to keep it not too feminine looking or anything like that for the family page for his scrapbook. So I've brought in some banners and some words, and I pulled out some thin cuts from the Sprigs and Leaves Slimline thin cuts, and I actually cut them on an adhesive vellum that we had years ago. We no longer carry it, but I still have some in my stash. So I pulled that out of my stash, and I'm going to use some of those. So you see I added some banners up there. I think those were from some flower shop embellishments. And then I have this little acrylic heart that was also from the flower shop embellishments that I put on with the mini glue dots. And then here, isn't that beautiful? The vellum Sprigs and Leaves that I have. So I'm sure it'll be kind of hard for you to see this vellum, especially if you're just watching on your phone or something like that, but it does give just a nice subtle embellishment to the page. And so I'm going to add them here, and there's different tools that you could use for this, but I'm mostly bringing in my non-stick micro tip scissors just to help lift up some of those layers on the edge. And then I'm also bringing in my bone folder, and this is one of those ivory bone folders, not a plastic one. You need like one made of ivory. This is my favorite one, and I really kind of burnished that vellum so that the adhesive was pretty even once you can see it put down on the page. And when I put down all of these layers, I tried not to go all the way to the bar outside of each layer. That way you could tuck some things in a little bit, and then those micro tip scissors are just nice for helping me lift up the edges a little bit if I needed. So I added a few of these that are in the vellum, and then I also have some that I cut from a piece of scrap Jade Cardstock as well. And so I'm going to bring in some of those and add that as well to this whole embellishment cluster in the top left corner of that left side of my layout. And then I also have some tweezers that I'm going to use in a second to help me hold on to this. And I'll just be tucking those in. Then I used some of my glue. I think this was one of my Tombow glues that we used to carry with close to my heart, and I just put it in a different glue bottle that really is a little bit handier for size for me, and it gets in a little bit more fine tip for the glue to come out in little bits at a time. So that pretty much finishes up my first cluster, and I'm going to add 2 more clusters to the accompanying page. So I'm going to add one to the bottom left and one to the top right on this page. And I have one of those espresso stitched rectangles, and I have a wooden sentiment. I don't even know what set this came from. It's in my stash, and I put that on that stitched rectangle, and now I've cut just the edge off of one of my white daisy rectangles, and I've glued on some of these triangles from that flower shop embellishments. They're like these natural wood embellishments. I don't know what you would call them, and they're like triangles. So I'm adding 3 of those and tucking that under kind of like a file tab or something to that effect, and I'm bringing in some more of those sprigs and leaves. You see part of them are cut off because it was just the edge of the paper, but I'm making it look like they're tucked in underneath this paper, and they're really not tucked too much. It's where they're actually cut off that fits under there. So I kind of hide where they had been cut on the edge of that scrap piece of paper. And I'm bringing in some of the vellum ones again, and I will just keep embellishing those 2 types of sprigs and leaves around in each of these embellishment clusters to kind of tie it all together. And I think that the leaves don't give as much of a feminine effect as like flowers or something like that might give to a page. And I like to use a lot of arrows and triangles and banners and things like that on my son's page, so I thought he'd probably like this in his scrapbook too. So I'm bringing in this little banner, and it has this diagonal cutout design, and so I was trying to figure out which scrap piece of paper, and I just love that plaid, so I wanted to work it in a couple places on this layout. So I put it behind there, I backed this little banner with it, and I think that turns out pretty cute actually. And I'm going to tuck this under the photo mat that I have, and then I will bring in that plaid paper one more time in a few minutes. But I'm going to stick this word smile down and bring in my 3D foam tape. And as I put down this foam tape, make sure you take note of how I put it on. I only put it in a couple places, and I left a blank spot. Now I could have put a piece of foam tape in that blank quarter and just not taken off the backing, but I just left the foam tape off that one spot altogether. And you see, I can slide the picture down in behind there, and it'll be perfect to overlap the corner of a picture. And I don't think whatever's in a corner of a picture will probably be that important. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this. And you can see this little white rectangle, it has stitching down the 2 sides. It's not a full stitched rectangle. So I'm trying to decide how I'm going to use that. And I'm going to put this arrow up on foam tape on another one of those espresso rectangles, and I just kind of tuck that arrow in up in the right hand corner of the page. And then I'm going to try to incorporate all of those elements in that 3rd cluster to go on my layout. So I really think these clusters will help your eye travel across the whole layout. It'll go from the top left on the left hand side of the page down to the middle between the 2 pages, and then up again to that top right corner that has this last cluster that I'm building now. And I'm trying to decide, I'm like, should I put it at an angle or put it straight down? I think straight down actually looks nice. I mean, you can see that there's a little bit of stitching. The stitching actually kind of goes along with that striped paper. I don't know if you can see it, but some of the stripes have some designs. They have some polka dots, some have almost like a stitching, it has some different designs that go down those stripes. And so I thought the stitched embellishments and layers look nice to carry that theme through for the layout. And a lot of times I go around with a journaling pen or a white gel pen and go around the whole outside of the page and make some stitch marks, but I don't really think I need to do that. I think I've just incorporated it in some of my little cluster layers. And do you see where I worked in some more of that plaid paper? I backed my camera with that plaid paper. So I just brought it in one more place, and then I will finish up some of the embellishments. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you like the challenge of taking a layout and also making a card with a similar sort of layout. And some of the other months in this virtual crop, I might even take a card sketch and make that card sketch into a layout. And if you go back on my YouTube channel, I think I've done that a couple other times. So one time I took just one element on a layout, and I decided to make a card out of that layout that was just one panel of a scrapbook page. I believe it had some Christmas bulbs coming down, and everything was like maybe silver and gold and things like that on the card. And it was probably back in November maybe that I did that video. So here you see some more of these little sprigs and leaves, just tying the whole thing together. Now I still have these last two photo spots because I wanted more than just two pictures on this layout. So the last two pieces of Jade Cardstock that I still have after I'm done embellishing, I'm just going to leave them. I'm not sure exactly what size they are. They're like 4 by 4.5 maybe or something, but I want to be able to cut them down if I use them on 3 by 4 photos or whatever I use. So I'm just gonna let them hang out and wait till I get my photos. So there's the first one again. Here's a full look at that layout once it was completed. And let's bring in that truck card again, and you can see it's the same basic layout. If you've enjoyed this video, and make sure you subscribe to my channel and you hit that bell to turn on all the notifications so you'll be notified every time I upload a crafty video. Please leave me a sweet comment below and share this video with your crafty friends as well. It's free, why not share it? Have a great day.